Unity's new input system was first introduced in October 2019, but most guides and tutorials still show the old way of doing things with the original system. Here's a quick overview of how to update your current 2D project to the new way of doing things. Let's go. I'm starting with a simple top-down 2D game in Unity where the player can move in 8 directions. Movement for the character is currently handled by a player controller script, a common approach for these types of games. Player controller is a simple class that turns input gathered from the old input system into a directional vector stored in a vector2. If this movement vector was not equal to 0, indicating no input was detected, the player is moved in the given direction. Otherwise, the player idles. The move method updates the animator so it can face the player in the right direction. Then, it increases the player's position in the direction of the movement input at a speed currently specified in a serialized float field. The idle method simply informs the animator that the player is no longer walking. Updating this type of movement code to the new system is relatively straightforward. The biggest change comes with how input is gathered. Rather than polling for input directly in every update method, the player controller class will instead be informed whenever new input is received via a callback method. The new input system is not available in Unity projects by default. It must be installed via the Package Manager, a tool for installing additional Unity functionality. To enable, go to Window, then Package Manager. Then change the Packages dropdown from In Project to Unity Registry. Next, scroll down to the Input System, which at the time of this release is version 1.3. Finally, click the Install button and choose to restart Unity when prompted to complete the installation. With the new input system installed, add a player input component to the player object. This component requires an input action, which is an asset that provides mapping between inputs and the actions they control, hence the name. By default, no actions exist, so click on the Create Actions button and store this in an Input Actions folder. At least in version 1.3, Unity now provides a couple of default action maps, or configurations of input controls for different states of a game. In the case of the default action maps, these are controls for a player movement or gameplay state, and a UI menu navigation state. These default action mappings will suit our needs as is, particularly the move action, which defines movement mappings for gamepads and keyboards via WASD and arrow keys. We can see that the move action returns a vector2 value specified by the action type and control type. Note that a vector2 is how the current input is stored. With the action map in place, the only other setting of interest on the player input component is the behavior. The behavior determines how the new input system communicates with the game. The default option, Send Messages, is the one I'll use here. The others I may cover in a more in-depth look at the input system in a future video. Like and subscribe and leave a comment if that's something that you'd like to see. Send Messages works by invoking a callback function on a script attached to the same object as the player input component that meets the following criteria. It's named on the name of the action, in the case of the move action, on move. Second, it takes as a single argument an input value type, which can be used to get the vector2 input. Let's head on over to the script and add this callback now. First, create a private void method called onMove that takes an input value as its only argument. In addition, we need to create a private vector2 to hold the movement direction received via the callback. In onMove, we can use the get method of value to get the vector2 input and store it in move direction. Finally, in update, use the move direction instead of polling for input via the old input system. There you have it, a quick and easy way to update an existing Unity project to the new input system. Be sure to like and subscribe for updates on more content like this. And click the screen now to see one of my other tips on making 2D games in Unity. Until next time, live creatively.